Hello, my name is Kevin Pickering, and today I will be presenting for my online Business 347 class. I will be presenting on an article that is about a case, and that article is titled, UP Sues to Fire Engineer Who Defecated on Train. Now, this article and case will touch upon subjects such as arbitration, appealing to the court, representation by unions, and the rights of a company to fire an employee. Now, before I continue, I want to go over a little bit of a summary of the case and what it involves. Union Pacific is a railroad company that attempted to terminate a negligent employee. Now, this employee was deemed negligent for his bizarre actions while on the job, and these actions included things like defecating on the knuckle that connected the locomotive to the boxcars and rest of the train. He was also witnessed throwing feces-covered towels out the locomotive window. He was caught on the train's security camera extending his middle finger twice, and he also contacted his manager to inform him that he left the manager a present. So it is extremely obvious why he was deemed negligent and terminated. The employee also accepted full responsibility for his actions and admitted complete guilt to everything that he did. UP terminated him under a specific rule that they have, which states that they forbid specifically negligent, insubordinate, dishonest, immoral, quarrelsome, or discourteous actions, which obviously there was plenty of with this engineer. The problem is that this engineer is represented by a union, and that union appealed to Union Pacific the termination of the engineer. Obviously, Union Pacific denied the appeal, and the union took this matter to an arbitration panel to resolve the issue. Now, the arbitrator decided in favor of the union and the engineer, stating that the termination of the employee was too harsh of a punishment for his actions. He also stated that Union Pacific should have demanded that the employee to be terminated seek out medical psychological evaluation before the termination was decided upon. Obviously, Union Pacific had an issue with this decision and has since filed a lawsuit to attempt to reverse the arbitrator's decision and seek out any extra relief that the court finds just for the situation. I'd like to talk a little bit about the contract that the employee entered into simply by working for Union Pacific. By entering employment of Union Pacific, this engineer entered into an express contract which stated that he agreed to abide by the rules of the company if he expected to remain employed. And as I stated before, they have an express rule forbidding actions that are negligent, insubordinate, dishonest, immoral, quarrelsome, or discourteous. Now, obviously, what the engineer did is all of those things. So it makes sense that they would want to terminate him. The engineer broke the contract by taking those actions, which gave every right to Union Pacific to fire him. On the other side, I'd like to talk about union representation. Now, by being a member of a union, this engineer has certain protections because of the union. The terminated engineer is represented by a union called the International Association of Sheet Metal Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers of the Transportation Division. The goal of this union, like all unions, is to protect and defend the interests of employees in specific fields or industries. As a representative of the employee, this union is going to do whatever they can in their power to make sure that his job remains intact, despite his obvious shortcomings and negligent behavior. I'd also like to touch upon the appeal that the union gave initially to Union Pacific before it was taken to arbitration. The appeal submitted by the engineers union was denied by Union Pacific for obvious reasons. Because of their decision to deny being a union and having to fight for their member, there was no other option than to go to arbitration. Now, going into arbitration means that both parties agreed that the arbitrator's decision is final. The reason that this is such a key point, that the decision of the arbitrator is final, is that if anybody could walk away from an arbitrator's decision and it not be final, the court system would be more flooded and there would be no reason to have an arbitration at all. So to reverse an arbitrator's decision is a big deal and is something that very rarely happens. To go into arbitration a little bit more, the arbitration decision is usually extremely difficult and rare to reverse. And there's good reason for that. But in this specific case, it will make Union Pacific's attempt to lose this employee extremely difficult. So in conclusion, this case has not currently been resolved yet. Union Pacific's claim in the lawsuit is that the arbitrator has exceeded their authority by stating that the company cannot fire the engineer. And their argument for this is that by saying that the company should have required the engineer to seek medical psychological evaluation before termination, the arbitrator's proposal is not required under existing labor agreements and would have the effect of changing the existing agreement and making a new rule regarding working conditions. Now, that sounds like a really practical grievance. It sounds like something that is reasonable and sounds like something that a court should take seriously. Unfortunately, like I stated before, arbitration is usually considered final. So unless it's something extremely out of the ordinary and extremely negligent on the arbitration's end of things, usually the court will not even attempt to look at a arbitration reversal. So even though Union Pacific clearly has good reason to terminate this employee, the employee has admitted his guilt and admitted his wrongdoings, and the arbitration may have actually overstepped what they should have, what their power should actually be, the chances of Union Pacific actually succeeding in this lawsuit seems to me to be extremely slim and will probably not go in their favor. So I would guess that the conclusion of this case will probably go in the union and the engineer's favor, and that Union Pacific will probably be stuck with this negligent engineer for the foreseeable future. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much.